Well, this is it. I haven't done this in over a week. I'm so excited. Outnumbered overtime. I couldn't even end the TV show because I couldn't get the words out fast enough because I was so excited for 1 p.m. Eastern. But here it is, and we have some new players of the game.
Wait, Harris is
here. You know what? I wasn't going to do it. I thought it was stale. Is it not stale?
No.
Oh,
keep going.
Oh, gee, baby. Oh, no. Are you kidding? I want to keep it fresh.
I'm not kidding.
Good to have you, Lou Dobbs. We had a good hour.
We did.
Great hour.
You know, and you're having General Keane on. I heart General Keane. That's what I say. I love you both. I don't know who I love. I love you more.
Oh, bless you. And I love you more.
Oh, it's a moment. You guys
Although I
think
got
we
to
should
say,
leave?
Jack is one of the most knowledgeable fellows. A great guy, smart as hell. A man that I wish this administration, any administration, would be reaching out to for advice, for thoughts.
Do you think they ask him specifically?
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, I remember when the red line was drawn. Remember the red line? It was kind of dotted. The red line into Syria,
and
right?
Invisible ink.
And then it was written in invisible ink. But I remember at that time, General Jack Keane was one of those who was really part of the conversation because of his experience in that part of the world. So I'm curious now that it's absolutely come back to taking action, some sort of action in Syria, if he's part of it again.
You know, I don't know that they are, but as I said, I hope that they are consulting with him now. This is an administration, as I said in your hour. This is an administration that's at war with itself. It is so conflicted, and when not in conflict, so ambivalent, as to leave every policy ambiguous, and our direction is undiscernible.
I'm really interested because of what you just said and for your opinions, because sometimes I think, Liz, is my vision clouded because I'm Jewish. I grew up in the 70s watching all these horrific things happen in Israel and me thinking, I don't want to give these guys an inch. And I don't want any U.S. blood spilled over this kind of thing. And you look at what's happening now, and I think to myself back to when we had, of course, the invasion of Iraq under George Bush. GE, and I was working at CNBC at the time, GE owned it. They went in after it was mission accomplished, and they started setting up an electrical grid. And they spent a lot of money doing that. And then some insurgents blew it up, and GE pulled everybody out and said, forget it. They don't want us there. They don't want our help. These people think differently from us, and I just feel like committing us to that is so horrifying, and it makes me sick.
You know, I think 9/11 changed things for a lot of people because there was all of a sudden this realization that this stuff can wind up on your doorstep.
It can come here, yeah.
It can come here. So I think it changed the vision. A lot of people who had a non-interventionist vision or felt like, you know what can we really do? These are maniacs. They're going to do what they want anyway. I think there was suddenly an idea of, yeah, well, you know what? When the maniacs come over here, now it's in our city. Now it's our problem. So let's try to prevent that. And there was a new angle of prevention that a lot of people started to feel. Now, I do think that fades sometimes with the passage of time. I think a lot of people say, oh, you know, we don't want that much intervention. We don't want that much intervention. But if there were to ever be another attack on American soil, I think you would very quickly see people saying, get us over there and get us doing something right now.
But intervention for what?
Exactly.
Intervention in the interests of the United States and security or democracy building. And that's where George Bush lost me. I think the American electorate gets the case for going in to take out a threat to the homeland. I think they understand that. What they don't get, and this is why there's no appetite for boots on the ground, is that we lost blood and treasure in the name of trying to change goat herders with deep ethnic hatreds into us.
They don't want it.
And that's really, the Founding Fathers never set up the U.S. to be this ideological orgy of democracy promotion, and that's when I just gave up on what they were trying to do.
I think you're exactly right. I think that people need to remember who we are. We instead of focusing so much on Arab states or whether it's Israel, Israel is our ally, our key ally in the region. Hamas, supported by Iran. Iran doesn't enter the discussion nationally right now. Look, my heart goes out to the families of those two journalists beheaded. My blood boils. But we've got to start talking straight. We left Iraq with a job not done. We left a client state of Iran, a state sponsor responsible for a third of our casualties in Iraq. In Afghanistan, we're about to depart with the Taliban in charge. we have not accomplished our mission. We haven't succeeded in retribution against those responsible for September 11th. We've got to be honest with who we are. And if another person ever talks to me about a long war, as we heard for so many years, and tells me how smart our elites are, I'll throttle them.
Lou, you think we can actually accomplish anything there? It will never end.
No.
It's been ever thus
don't
for
misunderstand.
centuries.
Let me be clear. You bet we can. But that's got to be our decision to do.
Well, then we'll be there forever.
Well, no, Liz. This country is not exceptional by accident. It is not directionless by nature or by constitution. We have a president who is wayward, listless, and lost. That is a temporary, but a very dangerous situation, but temporary.
I want to turn to Twitter, if I can, real quickly, because I'm asking people their responses here as we talk online. Pure and True, I'm not sure if that's her name given at birth, says, the president does not have a mission in Iraq because we control their oil already. What are your thoughts on that?
It's nonsense. The fact of the matter is that we should have maintained control of their oil. Indeed, China has more contracts than we do in Iraq. We chose to be pristine and pure and true because that's who we are as Americans. We're anti-imperial, but we have this godlike complex. It's not a policeman complex. It's a godlike complex that we can change the destiny of every nation on earth. Yeah. We should never indulge that fantasy.
You know, Andrea, as we were talking today, the one thing we didn't really touch on, and this viewer kind of hints at it, Diane Watt on Twitter says, I'm not a warmonger, but I will always stand against evil in the world, no matter what the cost. # do the right thing. Does Congress have a role to play here separate from the president? I mean, we're seeing some legislation come out of Congress this week that they want to tell this president, look, go do what you need to do. We'll pass the legislation so you don't have to ask us in the middle of the night. But do they have any other kind of role?
I think they do. The problem is Congress is so dysfunctional. It's scary to look to them to lead, and I don't think that we should. But the president should not act without Congress, no question. The relationship, though, between the president and even his own party is a pretty tough one. And I think Republicans and Democrats have looked at the record of this administration, and again, it's what I mentioned earlier. The Arab Spring has been nothing but a coming out party for jihadists, and we are supplying the music, basically, when you look at what we did in Egypt by allowing the Muslim Brotherhood to rise to power. The same thing in Libya. They're having a pool party at our embassy over the weekend.
Into the water.
Now they're seizing our aircrafts. Look, Gaddafi's not a good guy. Mubarak wasn't a great guy, but they got off the jihadi bandwagon. But instead, we decided to push them aside. Why? They're better than jihadists. Dictators you need in these countries to keep the jihadi and the radicals down. We have not done that. We've made it worse. We've created these power vacuums. And in Syria, Bashar Assad is asking us to ask him for permission to go in and take out ISIS. Look, the U.S. policy should be very simple. If it's a threat to our homeland, we come in, we take you out, and we leave. We give the keys to the highest-ranking general, and we leave. That is not what the Bush administration did. Paul Bremer did a number of different things, sent the army home, tried to privatize Iraqi industries, and made it democracy promotion. They're not suited for democracy, these countries.
Well, they don't
take out
want what
the
we
threat
have in that
and
sense.
go, and that's it. No nation building.
You can't sell it because they're not buying.
No nation building.
And we're not suited to administering empires.
Exactly.
We need to be out of nation building. We need to be very, very prudent and careful when we send our men and women to war. Right. It is, it's a question of having a volunteer military. If we had a draft and every family in this country had someone in their family in uniform, I assure you that Congress would not be sitting here tossing the keys to President Obama to carry out the conflict you want.
Jedediah, listen to this from Twitter. Kenneth Robertson says, we have to get away from the mindset of, quote, going to war. War is everywhere. It is never ending. Terrorism is war.
Right. That comes to the question of, people saying that this administration refusing to admit that we're at war already, and people saying two American journalists were just beheaded. What do you define it? Or is that a peaceful situation that we have going on? So I think people think of it oftentimes in terms of, U.S. combat troops on the ground engaging, as Andrea is saying, democracy building, this long strategy of our involvement where we never leave. Liz was talking about, well, then we'll be there forever. I think that's scary to people. I think that also when you say things like amp up U.S. involvement, people get nervous. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean more airstrikes? Does that mean better targeted airstrikes? What are you talking about? I think there's a lot of confusion around that. But no one's confused about whether or not we're being targeted and we're at war. Of course we're at war. We're at war with radical Islam. We've been at war with radical Islam for a very long time.
When Lou says take it out, take them out, that is easier said than done, Lou, because there is a sentiment that pervades Europe. They're training people here in the United States. This is not easy to take out.
Let me be very clear. Let me be very clear. What I am saying to you is, if we have an enemy, destroy the enemy. It's that simple. The enemy is exactly, as Jedediah said, radical Islam. And there should be no political correctness, no hesitation whatsoever, whether it is on our support of Israel, whether it is on our cooperation to destroy Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Islamic State, or Iran, unless they withdraw their initiatives of state-sponsored terrorism. This is a time for honesty and for our best minds to come together over what is reality. And right now, neither party is expressing reality nor an idea about what the future should be.
Yeah, and Andrea, you mentioned that during the hour on TV, the TV version of Outnumbered, that it's time for the best minds to
go back and read the Cairo speech, though. This is the problem. The president knows the threat. He's actually apologized to the Muslim world for the actions of the West. This is what he believes, as Lou said. This is who we have. It's not that he's incompetent. It's not that he doesn't know. He has a different ideology than past presidents. And as soon as we all start to realize this, it'll make a little more sense, as scary as it will be.
You made an interesting comment, though, and it's about not acting alone. He's not in this alone. This is our country. So it's going to be interesting to see how we go forward with
community organized.
Well, you know who's gone at it alone? Israel, when they bombed Osirak, which was Iraq's attempt to create a nuclear power plant. And nobody stood by Israel, and they weren't going to wait around. We should be taking our cues on the way the Israelis run their government.
Okay. Wow, we got heavy on Outnumbered over time today, right?
Heavy.
That's okay, because that's kind of the news cycle. I saw some tweets yesterday. Where are y'all? Well, we're back, baby.
Yeah.
And apparently we can pop the top off that. OT, baby. So good to have you today. We'll see you for the TV version tomorrow of Outnumbered at noon Eastern. Bye-bye.
Yeehaw.
Bye now.